Hey friends, we are back, and today we are taking you Black Friday shopping with the Minnesota Twins. So with that said, this is Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello again, and welcome back to Locked On Twins. I'm your host, Brandon Warren, and you can unfollow me on Twitter at Brandon_WARNE. With that follow that you are taking away from me, you could run over to X and follow at Answer Dave Brown. Dave is with us again. Dave, good Thanksgiving for you?
I had a really good Thanksgiving. Didn't have any conflicts with the family. Excellent food, and I've had two leftover meals already of Thanksgiving food. So that's what you want.
Honestly, that sounds just about right. Again, thanks everyone for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And of course, as the saying goes, we're your team every day with the Locked On Podcast Network. Want to encourage you to be interactive with the show. As you may have noticed, we are scheduling them as premieres. So you can watch them as though they're live. So, me waving at you right now, it's as though it's live on YouTube the first time you watch it. So we would love to hear comments, questions, queries, conundrums, all that fun stuff. But again, thanks for hanging out with us. And today's episode is brought to you, as it has been, by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. It's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Today's agenda is Black Friday shopping for your Minnesota Twins. Dave, first though, you did mention that you have had leftovers twice. What is your go-to kind of
plate
repurposing? What do you do to liven it up the next day or later the Thanksgiving day if it were?
Well, I think the key is the gravy has to be right. I think that's very good for putting on your potatoes, on your stuffing,
Yep.
and keeping that lively. If the gravy's right, obviously when you heat up leftovers, it's not supposed to be as good as the meal, but you can simulate it pretty closely if you have good gravy. And good gravy, we got good gravy. So one thing I do is I don't heat up the turkey. I eat that cold.
Yep.
Not always in a sandwich, sometimes just with my fingers. But I heat up the plate that's got it's got stuffing, it's got mashed potatoes, so it's a double starch, corn, triple starch,
Yep,
spinach souffle kind of a thing. There's a thing in my family that's my favorite.
Yep.
And that's basically my go-to.
Load up on the carbs if you ask me. That's what I'm going to do. Did you have a contribution? Like, did you specifically do one thing that was your specialty for it? Because I did Brussels sprouts. They turned out very, very good. They had some maple syrup, some bacon, some balsamic vinegar, all that good stuff. And also my go-to is Hawaiian bun. Don't overthink it. Cranberry on the bottom, turkey, mayo, or whatever. If you like Miracle Whip, I'm not going to fight you over it. And then if you want a little pepper too, but it makes an incredible sandwich, and the cranberry on one side and the mayo on the other, it works. I swear to you, it works.
It was, that sounds wonderful.
Yep.
I didn't really make a contribution to cooking. I did some dishes. I peeled the potatoes for the mashed potatoes. So that is basically what I did. My daughter did the stuffing for the first time. She's only 11, and it turned out great. Good job, Claire. And my wife did most of the other cooking. And honey, if you're listening, it's my favorite meal of the year. I don't know if that's because I like the food or it reminds me of grandma or what, but some combination therein. And Thanksgiving is my favorite combination dinner, and I'm glad to have it multiple times this weekend.
Well, that's awesome. And you get in that weird weekend space where it's your Friday is a Sunday, and then your Saturday is a Sunday, and then your Sunday is a Saturday. It just makes no sense at all. So we're making it work here, and we're going to play a little catch up over the weekend too, to get back some of these shows that we missed during the week during family time. But again, thanks for hanging with us today. Though we are going Black Friday shopping. I don't know about you, Dave. I didn't leave the house today. I actually cleaned the garage. My father-in-law and I put up some shelves along the side. And so my Black Friday shopping and my shopping will be limited to the digital online variety. So I did not leave the house today, but we're not going to have to leave the house to do what we're going to take care of on the podcast today. But did you indulge in any Black Friday hijinks?
Absolutely not. We're saving money right now to spend it later, I guess. So I didn't leave the house either. I cleaned the gutters, and in order to put up the Christmas lights, and I've got about halfway around the house with lights. The gutters are done. My fingers are done too. They're very cold. And it's funny. I don't know if it's supposed to, but the shingles, when it rains, some kind of mud forms in the gutters, and it's like a black brownie, and it was frozen. And I had a spoon. I'm like, son, bring me a spoon. And I was like spooning out chunks of goo from the gutters. It was just a terrible experience, but it looked like brownies that you wouldn't want to eat.
No, I'm sure not. It's probably not the mud they rub baseballs down with either. But so we're going Black Friday shopping today, and since we're well into the first segment, I decided we would do relievers first because people are not going to be that enthused about pitching shopping, or they will, but there's so many options that it's kind of hard to nail one down. But the assignment, if you chose to accept it, and the fact that you logged on and are talking to me right now suggests that you accepted it. There we go. I want to know what reliever you are looking at as a good. Now, this is not to say the Twins are going to lowball a guy. He's not going to get the money he's worth. We're not playing that game. We're just saying, hey, for what we think this guy might get, he is going to provide a lot of value. So I want to know where you're at relief pitcher wise. Who did you land on?
Well, I tricked you a little bit. I decided on Nick Martinez from the Padres, but I want to put him in the rotation. So the assignment was to get a hitter, a starting pitcher, and a relief pitcher. But in the relief pitcher bin, I picked Nick Martinez, and I want to put him in the rotation with this other starter that we'll reveal in a moment. So he had you don't always want to look at the ERA, but it can be misleading. But I think it was 2.42 in 9 starts last year with the Twins. Let's see, 2.32. 42 innings, 28 hits allowed, 18 walks. It's not so good. 37 strikeouts. I like how the guy operates, and I think there's a lot of juice in that arm. He hasn't been abused terribly. He's one of those guys I think went overseas for a while and gave him hell over there and came back over here and has been a better pitcher for it. So Nick Martinez is my relief pitcher, but I want him to start.
So let's not sleep on a couple things here. Former Texas Ranger, so you got the Thad Levine connection there. I love guys in that 8 to 9 strikeouts per 9 range because it's just enough to be like you can be good with 8 strikeouts per 9. It's not exactly beating the world down like it might have been 15 years ago or whatever. It's not what it used to be, but it's still solid, and you still get the sense that a pitcher who does that maybe has some room to, if you have a guy who's striking out 6 batters per 9, you're not going to ever expect them to get to a batter per 9. Sounds like something Kyle Gibson kind of did for a bit there with the Twins. But with a guy like Martinez, I kind of like that. I like the ground ball tendency that he showed this last season because I don't know, the Twins in this, front office have kind of skewed toward more fly ball pitchers because Byron Buxton's in your outfield. Now, I don't want to steal your thunder from later, but you're going to add maybe an interesting outfield or two. I don't know. We'll see on the position player side. But it never hurts to have ground ball guys if you can pick them up at even just a decent rate. Carlos Correa at short is more or less going to make certain that you pick up a fair amount of grounders on the left side. Right. I think Royce Lewis could be perfectly fine at third base over a full season. Jorge Polanco, probably not going to win a Gold Glove at second, but he's solid. And, we'll see what happens at first base. So I really like that Martinez pickup. I'll allow it because he made 63 appearances and 9 starts. And I like I like that you're kind of thinking outside the box, because who wants to be in a box anyway? My option, yeah, see, exactly. It's like that. I'm in a nutshell from Awesome Power.
Yeah.
So Ryan Stanek was who I went with, and my reasons are quite simple. It almost reminded me of the scene on Awesome Powers where he goes, "The details of my life are quite inconsequential." Like that's what I felt like I was going into with Ryan Stanek. Um, to be maybe a little crass, he throws the piss out of the ball. 98, 99, 100. I freaking love guys that do that. He does that while walking 3.7 batters per nine this last year in 50 and 2/3 innings. Now, 3.7 in a vacuum, not that great. But when you can throw that hard and have any semblance of command, to me, there's something there. Certainly having pitched for Tampa and Houston in the past, you'd be like, okay, well, maybe there's not something left to unlock there. Although Houston, Brent Strom's no longer there, so I don't know if they're still the cock of the walk, so to speak, when it comes to getting pitchers to the best version of themselves. But if you're the Twins and Stanek is available, which he is, early 30s, not coming off an incredible season. In fact, 0.1 Fangraphs WAR, 506 xFIP, but a 396 xERA. Basically, run-of-the-mill reliever. I just like bringing in a guy who can throw the living crap out of the ball, give you another look, especially if your bullpen is going to have a lefty like Caleb Thielbar, who doesn't necessarily have crazy velo. You're going to have, a couple of guys giving you, different bits of funk here and there. And guys that throw 98, 99 don't grow on trees necessarily. Or if they do, those trees are right now barren in Minnesota. So I don't know. I'm Ryan Stanek. You are Nick Martinez. I'm going to go on record and say I think that Nick Martinez idea is a great one. Where do you stand on Stanek here before we run into break?
I've always liked him. He's a big, scary-looking guy, like you said, who throws 100 miles an hour.
Yep.
They did last year was not his best season. I think they took him out of. I don't know about leverage, but the innings, he was more of a middle guy than he was late.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's a Dusty thing or what, but he's a Midwest guy. He's from the Kansas City area, so he could acclimate quite easily to Minnesota. He's pitched, like you said, with the Rays and the Astros. He's pitched in a lot of big games. That's not going to scare him. He was still throwing hard last year. It wasn't his best season. He didn't have Strom, but the Twins have some pretty good coaches, and I think can get at least another decent season out of him. So I like that move too for the actual bullpen if my guy Martinez is going to the rotation.
So Stanek was going to, or did make $3.6 million last year. I think you could probably get him 1 year, 3.5 plus either incentives or maybe $4 million. Incentives are weird with middle relievers, so I don't know what it would be there, but maybe games appeared in. I don't know. Martinez did decline a 2-year club option for $32 million. Now, to me, that more signifies that I think it was just time for both sides to move on. I think there was probably just not going to be an agreement in role and all that. So I don't know that he's necessarily trying to break the bank, but for Stanek, it's going to be a 1-year deal. How many years are you giving Nick Martinez in your opinion?
I think he's going to want 3. He's probably going to want some stability after the ride that he's been on in his career. And the Padres, they probably appreciate him turning that down because they've got money to spend on somebody else. Of course, they might trade Juan Soto, so maybe that'll free up some cash for them. But I think we're maybe looking at a 3-year deal, and as far as the value per season, it might be $11 or $12 million a year. Maybe that's too much, but I don't think he's going to. I'd love for them to go after somebody at the top of the heap, but I just get the feeling that the Twins are not going to do that. So let's shoot for the middle of the heap, and maybe with a little upside with Nick Martinez.
Shoot for the middle, my son, just like me with most things I've attempted. So we're going to take a quick pause, talk about our friends at FanDuel, and then we're going to come back with starting pitchers. Apparently Dave's going to have a second starting pitcher, but whatever. But I digress. Let's take a quick second. When we come back, we'll talk about starters. So our friends at FanDuel want you to know that you can score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if your team wins on Black Friday, if your team wins on Thanksgiving, on Sunday, on Monday night, if they win on team building activities on Wednesday, just whatever it is, if your team wins, you win $150 in bonus bets. It's no better time to join. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's just, like I said, no better time. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, overs and unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and kick off the NFL season. Again, that's $150 if your team wins. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. And again, FanDuel.com/locked-on and kick off the NFL season. All right, we are back here and we are going to talk a little bit about starting pitchers. So, Dave, there's a lot of starting pitchers available. We're doing this exercise early in the offseason because, frankly, it is what it is. It's hard to deduce just one, but with our limitations time-wise, it made more sense to do that. And we can do more of these episodes later. But what was your methodology for picking a starter? Because for reliever, for me, quite frankly, there was a little element of like throwing a dart just because there's so many. If you could tell me that Archie Bradley was going to get back to form for some reason, I'd be all over that. But I have no reason to believe that. I have no reason to say, yeah, he's going to be, go Howard Dean. Yeah, he's going to be just like he was at his best in Arizona. I don't know that. So with starters, though, it kind of more boils down to me like, okay, the Twins do not want to give up crazy money, crazy years, but that doesn't mean you can't still get a pretty good starting pitcher. So with that said, what was your methodology and who did you land on?
Yeah, somewhat on a short-term deal. The money won't be crazy. I mean, it won't be nothing, but a guy who's looking for a bounce back year. Actually, his last 2 years haven't been. 2 years ago, he wasn't awesome, but he was okay last year for just a terrible situation with the White Sox. Lucas Giolito, he's not 30 years old yet. He didn't finish the season very well with the Angels or the Guardians, but I think you can get him on a 1-year deal and, pay him $14 or $15 million and, get yourself a nice one-season guy hoping to bounce back for maybe a lighter free agent situation overall the next year. So you mentioned there's a lot of free agents available. He might get lost in the woodwork, and but this gives the Twins a chance to get a guy who's got some really good stuff. He isn't too old, and maybe do it on a 1-year deal.
It's still an upside play at his age too. I mean,
right.
It's not often you're going to sign a free agent starter under 30. And I think Eduardo Rodriguez might actually have been quite a bit under 30 when he signed. I think he might, I don't know if he's at 30 yet, but to hit free agency twice before into your 30s.
31, but he was under when you, yes.
That's right. So yeah, I like that. I like the idea there. I like the idea that, you're again taking the possibility of if you can pay him third starter money for first starter upside, fifth starter floor, it's kind of the nature of the beast in free agency. What is the sway for you if you're Giolito and someone offers you a multi-year deal versus a 1-year deal? Do you think there's a number where because if you're him, you probably want to, 1 year, $15 million, have a nice year, get a 5-year deal for $100 million, right? I mean, that's, I think that's the dream.
Yeah. If you, you believe in yourself and all that, he could be a guy though, thinking about things that might work against the Twins for a deal like this. He was on 3 teams last year. I mean, maybe he wants to be somewhere for a couple years. I don't know if that's, what he's thinking about, but so maybe the 1-year deal isn't as attractive, but he kind of pitched himself into a situation where that's maybe going to be his best offer.
So you don't have him reuniting with Reynaldo Lopez again?
I was thinking about that. I think that would be hilarious. I don't know. The Twins or the Braves are reportedly hot on Shohei. We'll see about that. Well, he's not going to pitch next year,
but they also want to start Reynaldo Lopez, which to me makes no sense.
I think that's very risky. I think Reynaldo Lopez showed himself to be an excellent reliever and has not showed himself to be capable of being a consistent starter. So, Giolito could be, that could also be posturing on their part, but maybe not. Maybe that's what, maybe they told him, hey, Reynaldo, we'll put you back in the rotation. But, Giolito could go. We're joking, I guess, but he could go back with Lopez since they're together at the hip forever. But
so would 4 years and $64 million change your mind as far as like if you're Giolito and you're like, man, a 1-year deal, I can rebuild some value. I could also wait, or I could sign a multi-year deal now, maybe a little less money. You got to kind of weigh those two, because if he has another bad year, suddenly you get on that 1-year express train where it's 8 million, 8 million, 8 million, 10 million. You're not, and then in the aggregate, you might bring up another 50 million the rest of your career. So I'm sure there is an option that would sway him to sign multi-years.
Well, and if it looks like maybe he's going to go that way, the Twins could go with maybe another guy like Seth Lugo, who put in a whole season as a starter last year for the Padres and was decent. Just bring him and Nick Martinez along as a package deal. And
who doesn't want to replicate the Padres from last year, right?
Well, I don't think those guys were the problem necessarily, but there's a little of mojo working against you there, but the Padres not. But I mean, it's not like the Giants aren't going to take Bob Melvin as the manager. Teams don't want to trade for Juan Soto. Sell the Padres off of their parts, and it'll be fine. So, if Lucas gets a wild hair about some multi-year deal and gets $60 or $70 million, well, maybe it's time to see you later. But if he doesn't, I think he should be there to pounce.
And I also considered, by the way, Liam Hendriks for vibes purposes from the relief pitcher side of things. A 2-year deal, low end money the first side to rehab and all that, and then an option after that. He's going to get those parachute payments from the White Sox that are separate, but a whole other thing where he's not obviously not going to need to break the bank this year necessarily. But I wanted somebody who I would be able to count on to pitch most likely. For a starter though, so I don't know how accurate FanGraphs numbers are for overseas, but Eric Fedde is coming off a really strong year in the KBO with I believe it's the NC Dinos. Here's some numbers: 180 and a third innings, which innings are innings. 180 would be great. 30 starts, 10.4 strikeouts per 9, 1.8 walks per 9. Now, this is the number I can't quite wrap my brain around. 70% ground ball rate. I do not know if they have enough tracking to, like if maybe that's, like sometimes in NBA data, they track only certain arenas for every single play and that sort of thing. I don't know. But if he's striking out 10 batters per 9, walking nobody and getting a 70% ground ball rate, he's 30 years old. We have plenty of track record that show guys can go overseas and come back and reinvent themselves. He did have, I will say this, in his little brief foray with the Nationals in 2017, a ground ball rate of 61.7%. So in the neighborhood,
out of line.
Yeah, but I mean 60 to 70. We're talking about recently retired Zach Britton level of ground balls here. So I don't know if that's the case, but when we look at also his data as far as pitch type, again, not sure the KBO is 100% accurate, but he's hitting 93 with a fastball through a lot of sliders and a lot of cutters. Twins love sliders. It's just their thing. And then changeups besides. I mean, everybody loves changeups just because they're nasty. I look at the pitch mix, I look at the numbers, and without seeing any video or knowing how much of the underlying data will back up what I say, he looks like an interesting target to me as a 30-year-old.
I think that's a good out of the box type of thinking there. I mean, he was a guy who the Nationals think a lot of things, but the Nationals thought that he would be better than he was, and it
Yep.
looks like going overseas to the KBO, presented him with a situation where it's a good place for those kind of hitters, for his kind of pitches. Good to sharpen him up and not necessarily worry about not making it as a major leaguer anymore. Kind of get away from that for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a good out the box kind of situation. There have been a number of guys that have gone over there and come back and been very solid. I think it's possible that he could be one of those guys. That's not a sure thing by any means, but I don't think that you would have to pay that much to find out.
Yeah, I think you could do 2 years, 16, 18 million. I think a 2-year deal with decent money, but not blow you over with, knock you over with a feather money.
Yeah.
Drew Rucinski did something like that, and it didn't go well with the A's last year, but not uncommon for this sort of thing to happen. Let's quickly though shift gears to position players, and position players is a fun thing too because the Twins' needs for position players are kind of unique. You need someone who can kind of do one thing or another, but you can't just say, hey, give me the best position player at every position, and they're going to 100% make sense for this team because they have Carlos Correa at short. So as much as like a good shortstop would be, it's never bad to sign a good shortstop, square peg, round hole. They already have Royce Lewis, a whole bunch of infielders. So navigating what the Twins really need and then kind of overlaying that with what the market has to offer, I think brings back some interesting options. I'm gonna throw mine out there and then I'll let you come full circle with yours. Mitch Garver for me was the draw. Right-handed bat. Twins need to get more right-handed. First base, catcher, DH. Twins can use help at all of those spots. Chances are Garver probably won't catch that much. Either the Twins will likely trade Christian Vasquez or they could still have Garver as a third option while playing first base, DHing, etc. They did add a catcher to their 40-man roster here in the last week. So it gives you a little bit of this, a little bit of that across the board. 138 weighted runs created plus. His final year with the Twins was 139. He only played 87 games this year. He's never played more than 103, never more than 359 plate appearances. I don't think there's going to be full-time money available for him. And if you can sign a guy like this, like to me right now, he's like late career Mike Napoli, maybe not quite there because Napoli, once Napoli came out from behind the plate, he was just not back there anymore. It just was not a thing. But he's a righty masher who there's plenty of reason to believe if you DH'd him and he played 130 games, he'd pop 35, 40 homers and it wouldn't be empty. There'd be walks. It's lefties. He's an intense guy, but he's a good dude, like just a really good dude. I think the Twins would do well to get him back here. Again, not looking for him to do too much defensively. And I'm looking at this. 374 weighted on base average, 363 expected. So it wasn't as though he outran peripherals or anything like that. And at his age, people may not realize he is going to be 33 in January. A 2-year deal for somewhere in the area 24 to 30 million to me makes sense. I don't know where you would stand on that, but I want to know, and then I want to know who your guy is, because I think Mitch Garver, if you brought him in here, it just gives you one more kind of middle-ish or a hitter-ish guy, the guy that you could put at number 6, and you're like, that dude was born to bat 6th or 5th in a lineup. You know what I mean?
I like it. There's a number of ex-Twins available in free agency. It'd be fun to see
get the band back.
Come back.
Yep,
that would be neat. He's and what he did last year, I think, is representative of what he can do when he's healthy and when he's not asked maybe to do too much. He's had super bad luck with injuries in his career. I mean, that's another thing too. It's not so much that he is injury prone. He's just a very unlucky kind of dude, and sometimes catcher opens itself up to that. I like the righty masher side of it. He's a very solid middle of the order, maybe not third or fourth, but maybe after that, like you said. He's a guy you could put at first base if Kirilloff is if there's a left-handed pitcher. Jeffers is a guy who showed himself last year to be the one that you want in the lineup as much as possible, but he gives you a backup where you don't lose a lot. Defensively, not too much, and certainly he had a great hitting season. I would expect I don't know. I'm not sure what the Rangers' depth is going to look like, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up going back to the Rangers too. But even with Jonah Heim behind home plate, but I think he'd be a very good. I like Rhys Hoskins is not the guy that I'm picking, but I could. He can mash kind of like Rhys Hoskins can a little bit. I think that would be good. The guy I picked, I went at it a little bit different. Kevin Kiermaier, would love to see him in center field. You could put Buck maybe in left sometimes. It would sort of free up the corners to do other things. It's a guy who can still get it on defense at 33, 34 years old.
You clarified how he could still get it.
I followed up immediately on defense. I said
he's GQ Kirk Cousins though. Like he looks like Kirk Cousins if Kirk Cousins was really, really pretty.
He's a handsome dude, and that doesn't really help you win, but it does make your team better to look at. Yep. And I think, as far as I can tell, a good-natured fellow too. Even though he blocked me on Twitter, I think for giving him thumbs down on his offense, this was like 7 years ago, but I'm sure I had it coming. And that's a guy. I mean, he hits better than Michael Taylor. He's a guy. If Buxton isn't going to play the outfield or play center field, you're going to get a lot there on defense too. And he's not a terrible hitter. So he's not great, but he's better than some people.
Like a 680, 720 OPS kind of guy.
Yeah, right. Something like that. So, and I think he would. I mean, he's a twin-like guy to me. He's a very good player, a decent, affable clubhouse type person, and I think he would fit in well.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. And the center field dilemma, if we want to call it that, is a curious one because can you sell yourself on Buxton backed up by Castro and Nick Gordon? I don't think so. Can you sell yourself on Emmanuel Rodriguez? Like I think it might have been Kylie McDaniel of ESPN say that he could see if Buxton doesn't come to spring training ready to play center, he's like, maybe they'll just break camp with Emmanuel Rodriguez, which to me is crazy, but crazier things have happened. So center field is going to be interesting, to put it Minnesotan. We'll see how it goes, but I like where that's at. I also like too that there wasn't that much overlap between our spots in terms of positions. We spoke about it ahead of time, who would pick who, but
maybe they'll bring them all in.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it goes to are they like the Braves, 10 open 40-man spots. I mean, who wouldn't want that? I don't know. That's pretty much all I have for you. We're going to swing back here this weekend and a little makeup episode, and we're gonna do Cyber Monday, but it's gonna be but trades, because we know Derek Falvey and Thad Levine are big on trading, so we'll see what happens there. But Dave, I hope you have ample time to warm up your fingers before you end up going back out to put the rest of the lights up. Right now, it is, I think it's like 21 degrees here, so I don't know if you're contending with that level of temperature, but it
isn't that bad. It's not Minnesota. You guys you said you already have to have your lights up now because it's too late. Otherwise, you'll freeze to death if you try.
Yeah, I mean, we were out in front of it. Last year we had a baby in November. It was a little different. So, but yeah, so we'll come back. We'll do a little bit of a Cyber Monday for trades, see if they find some deals for the Twins on Amazon or whatever that new one is that everybody isn't sure if $4 shoes are safe to buy. I don't know. Oh, yeah, same Timu Solani. I'll go with Paul and Carlos Correa. You can have Timu Solani. Anyway, that's a wrap. That's it for Locked On Twins. Thanks for hanging out. For Dave Brown at Answer Dave Brown on the X of Twitter. I'm Brandon _Warren. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Twins, and we'll see you later.